I'm super excited to be talking with one of Forbes' top 10 social media power influencers, Kim Garst, who's actually the co-founder of a social media digital marketing company called Boom Social. And she's also the author of Will the Real You Please Stand Up? A fascinating person all the way from Tampa, Florida. We got into talking a lot about focus, how to find it in the digital space, how to find it in social media, but also how to deliver that value that's really, really critical. Because if you're not understanding that value, if you're not able to deliver it, then, well, guess what? You might as well go home. Not much is going to happen. So we walk through her strategies for being able to deliver that value, and find focus as well, regardless of what channel you decide to use. So social media is pretty big. We talk a lot about how to actually define that and how to get started and how to move your business forward. So looking forward to talking with Kim.
Overwhelmed with online or just wanting to learn more about how you can build a successful business amidst all of the self-appointed gurus, big buzzwords and empty promises? The Breaking Digital podcast by Doyle Bueller tells you exactly what smart entrepreneurs need to know to escape the clutter, get clear of the confusion, and pass the bullshit of building and growing a successful business online. It's about digital leadership and delivering the best value for your business online to your audience. Now, here's your host and author of the book on digital leadership and online marketing, The Digital Delusion, Doyle Bueller.
So today I'm with Kim Garst, all the way from Tampa, Florida, where I guess the weather's quite nice around this time of year. So welcome, Kim.
I'm super excited to be here, Dole. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. So Kim, you're one of Forbes' top 10 social media power influencers, rather, and author of the international bestseller "Will the Real You Please Stand Up?" So what are you about? Like what do you do in the digital space?
Well, I'm passionate about helping business owners, entrepreneurs grow their businesses using the power of social and digital media. When people say, "Oh, I'm a social media power influencer," I'm like, "Okay, that's great," but it's for me, social media is just a marketing tool. It's not the focus of my business necessarily.
Okay.
That
So
makes
how
sense.
yeah, so how did you get started then? What sort of moved you along into this path?
Oh, well, I've owned an online business for over 20 years and started out way back in the day with web design.
Yeah.
And with web design, at the time, I heard this saying over and over again, wow, if you don't have a website in 5 years, you're going to be out of business. And then it was kind of a deja vu thing when social media really started taking off. I heard that same thing. Oh, yeah, oh, if you're not on social media in 5 years, you're going to be out of business. And I was like, I've been there. I've done this. I'm like, maybe I better pay attention to this concept. And so I really dug in. And back in the day, I would kind of go find clients or potential clients on B2B boards and like business chat rooms. And so when I saw, what social media was all about, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a median for connection in a way to attract people to me versus me going out and trying to find people that were interested in my services and needed my services. So I was immediately enamored with the marketing value. I saw the business application almost immediately, and so I just dug in and started marketing my existing business at the time on social media. And exactly the same thing happened to me that happened with web design. A lot of times people, back in the day, they would say, okay, well, I've got this website now, how do I market it? And the exact same thing happened with social media. People are like, wow, I see you're marketing your business on social media. How are you doing that? So I realized that my knowledge was more valuable than the services I was offering again. And it's just been an evolution. I kind of stepped up and into the space and continued to use social media and then shared what I learned that was working.
Oh, that's good. So do you think that you found social media or social media found you?
Well, I laugh and tell people I feel like I was doing social media before it was
Oh,
called
okay. Before it
because
was cool.
before it was cool because it was something technically the concept of it I've been doing for 20 plus years, connecting with people online to grow my business.
So what do a lot of your campaigns sort of focus on with social media? Like how do you actually utilize it?
Well, I use it as a way to show up and give value to people that um, resonate with my message. Whether that's blog content or whether that's just a human to human connection. From a humor or inspiration standpoint. I use it as basically as a medium to attract people to me personally, as because I'm the face of the brand, and then I try to move people that are interested in the business aspects as quickly as I possibly can to my list.
Okay.
And so my focus is connecting, giving value in whatever way people connect and resonate with my message, and then try to move as many people as are interested in or have businesses to my list.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. When you say giving value, how do you define that? Like what sort of makes your value, I guess, better than somebody else's value, for example, or a client or something like that? How do you define that value that really, really connects with your audience?
Well, that's the interesting part, and it's one of the reasons that I wrote the book. Will the real you please stand up, show up, be authentic, and prosper in social media? Because that's the biggest disconnect that I see for entrepreneurs who are trying to show up in the social space and use the social space to again attract those people to their businesses. Because it's really about you. It's really about you showing up authentically, being who you are, and engaging and connecting with people, um, and building out those relationships. And the value proposition is going to be different for every person. We're all unique. We're all attracted to different personalities based on what how they engage with us. I mean, it's exactly the same in real life. And I tell people this all the time. Social media is life, and yet people approach it with no strategy, no plan. It's the only marketing medium, honestly, that I've ever seen that people approach it with no strategy behind it. They just put stuff out and hope something sticks. But the real value proposition to showing up and giving value is right within your own grasp. You just have to show up and truly be authentic, just like you would do in real life. If you are meeting someone for the first time, you don't hold up a sign and say, "Hey, I've got a sale over on my website. You need to go grab it right now." You don't do that. And yet, so many times on social media, we think that's okay. And so the reality in the social space is that people aren't interested in our products or services out the gate. They're just not. So how do you show up and start a conversation and start building a relationship? It's like you would do in a social setting. If you're meeting someone for the first time, hi, how are you? Might be a great place to start.
Yeah. Seems like
Yeah,
we seem to shortcut that.
yeah.
Why do you think that kind of happened? Like, why did suddenly we went from conversations and connecting with people in real life, and then web and social came, and we kind of forgot how to sell or how to talk with people. So we're kind of seems like we're having to relearn that. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's kind of bizarre because I think a lot of business owners hear about the opportunity that is, quote unquote, social media. And many times they think it's the magic bullet. It's free. So, oh my goodness, I got to get out there, and use this amazing marketing tool to grow my business. And they see the connections that they can make in the social space as dollar signs instead of realizing there are real people on the other side of those computer screens or phone screens or whatever device they're on. And I think that is a big problem, in the sense that you're leading with what's in it for you instead of what's in it for them. And that's the disconnect. That's why so many people are struggling to actually monetize their social media presences, is because they lead with what's in it for them.
Yeah, yeah, no, and people kind of get stuck, and they forget that it's their audience that they're actually, trying to provide that value for. Yeah, no, it's a fascinating concept, but we're kind of stuck in the present day. So how do we make it better then? How do we actually create those connections? How do we actually, grow our audience towards our value and that sort of thing?
Well, I think that goes back to, what can you share that's actually going to be a value add for the people that you want to attract? If you are, trying to attract people who are going to buy your products and services, again, remember that people don't initially buy your products and services like they did 20 years ago. You could put up a widget and a website, and you would be able to create sales. Today, the way we buy is so different. Word of mouth and what other people are saying, whether we know them or not, carries incredible weight. And so showing up and really developing relationships and conversations and talking with people, not at them. And that could be a variety of things. Like, I'll just share my system. I share humor, I share inspiration, I share a lot of things that give value and are a touch point and a connection to me, that really don't drive a business result from a monetary standpoint. But it does drive a connection, and starts conversations and gives me an opportunity to add value to people's lives, so that when they need what I sell, I'll come top of mind. So that's my strategy for, showing up in a real way, in an authentic way, trying to connect and give value back to people. So my model is I lead with value without the expectation of reward. And that's a hard thing for some people to embrace.
Yeah, because they're sort of in a conflict between, trying to make money out of it and trying to attract an audience, and those two concepts, seem to be at odds with one another.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I just to kind of step into, okay, that sounds all woo woo, Kim. What does that mean, and how does it actually translate to money? So I'll give a very specific example of how I try to showcase value and then drive a direct business result. So I create a lot of content that's totally free, and then that's business related. So it might be a Facebook Live checklist, for example. If you're interested in stepping into the revolution that is really happening right now in the social media space, putting yourself out there on live video, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube, wherever, then maybe this checklist will help you. It'll kind of get you started. And so when they go to grab that, and I advertise it on my social platforms, whether that's on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, then they opt in, and now they're on my list. And I can nurture them on my list. I can sell to them when I have things that I ultimately that lead to a sale. And the majority of my sales, in fact, happen on my list. They don't happen on social media. We don't own our Facebook fans. We don't own our Twitter followers. We have to move those fans and followers as quickly as we can to our list, where we can, build out deeper relationships, where we have a touch point one-on-one with their eyeballs when we land in their inbox. And that's the monetary, AKA business application for a very specific example for monetizing your social media presences. And, we do that in a variety of ways. Sometimes we leverage our paid ads, some paid ads to drive traffic to our free content, and then it drops them into a sales funnel.
Yeah, and I've noticed that you have like a lot of those touch points with your free content and your checklists and your books and that sort of thing, which is fantastic. Well, what are some of the drawbacks to sort of having a sort of a funnel like that, or are there any for that matter?
Well, honestly, I haven't found any, from a monetary standpoint, they just flat out work. Having a funnel, and I call it a funnel, although that sounds terrible when you say you're dropping people into a funnel, it sounds like a bottomless pit.
Yeah.
But, but the concept is, I call it an ethical bribe where, you're giving something incredibly valuable away for free. And then I immediately have something that stays in that lane that gives them more knowledge. In other words, wow, she gave me this content all for free. And then she's offering me something low cost that will give me more knowledge, again, in the same lane. And then, of course, upselling them into perhaps my inner circle or a full blown course. The thing, in my opinion, and it's been my experience, it's the toughest to get them to spend the first dollar with you. So if you give them something that's incredibly valuable for free, and then have something that's low cost where there's not that fear of losing a lot of money, and then that's incredibly valuable. So you're building on their trust factor with you by simply just given the goodies, and whether that's free or low cost, and then you have an opportunity to upsell them into other things. Or if you come out with something else, they already have a trust factor with you, a know, like, and trust factor. They've gotten your free content, they've gotten value from it, they've been able to take some action, and that concept flat out works. The only drawback to it is there is a bit of a learning curve. The processes, the digital processes to implementing that is not insurmountable by any means, because I've done it, but just the learning, the process of how it works,
Of
and getting
setting, yeah.
the setup, the tech setup.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. So could you like overdo it? Like with you, if you have too much stuff out there, too many gifts, too much content, is there that possibility that you might go, oh, well, they've got too much stuff. I really couldn't be bothered anymore. Like, is there sort of a balance here?
Well, I think it depends. Like, so what we do is we usually don't run more than a couple of funnels at a time, and we rotate them so that we are not inundating people all the time with the same stuff. But that said, everybody, in my space anyway, that's looking for help with certain things, different people, different strokes for different folks, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some people are going to be attracted to certain things because they have that pain point and you have offered up a solution. And others are going to be like, well, no, I don't need that help. And they're just going to ignore it. So it's kind of a balancing act for sure. But I think people are attracted to what they need. And if you try to put that in front of the right audience, then the conversions, a certain amount of conversions are going to happen.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Small packages.
Yeah. No, exactly. What do you find, or is there like a campaign that you ran, or a funnel or sequence, whatever that you ran that went like brilliantly successful, or even for a client that you might be willing to share with us?
Sure, we are actually constantly running paid traffic. We have organic traffic that just comes, literally for free via our my social platforms,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good portion of my business. That and that's free. That's totally free. And then we do paid ads as well on Facebook. I literally cannot find enough money to spend on Facebook ads. They're like an ATM machine. The more you put in, the more it comes out. And but the constancy of having your funnels always on is that you have consistent revenue coming in all the time. So one of the things that we have done very successfully is take my inner circle, which is focused on what I call bite-sized or mini style courses, where we take a single problem and we do what's called a mini course for it. That way people take action and don't get overwhelmed by the big courses that we, to myself to be included, sometimes have purchased and never cracked open because we run a business and we don't have time for all this.
We're too busy.
We're too busy.
Yeah.
So that's the concept of my inner circle, is to kind of nugget down core business things, strategies. And we have leveraged free content to what is called to a mini course, to upsell them into my inner circle. And we currently have about just under 2,000 paying members in my inner circle at $47 a month. So that has been something, and there's always people coming and going, so the attrition, it's just the nature of kind of a continuity program. But, we have a consistent growth in there, and, we've been able to cover down on the losses as well. So it's been a very effective strategy to build out our continuity program.
Oh, fantastic. That's a really good example of how to put it in place too.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
You said before, like, I want you to put on your crystal ball here.
Okay.
You said, you started in websites and that went really well for you, and then social came along and that went really well for you. What's coming next, Kim?
Well, I think it's here, actually.
Is it? Okay.
It is here. I mean, there's going to be some evolution, obviously, of the concept, but I personally think that live video is the future of social media. We're already seeing, the content showing up in our feeds. Facebook, I'll just use Facebook as a quick example. So many people are consuming news from news channels in their Facebook feed versus sitting down in front of their TVs. That's just one example. Twitter, has the rights to NFL football games, or that's another example. So I think that the opportunity for us as marketers is tremendous in this space, because I just know from my own usage of live video that it has exponentially grown my business. It's the fastest path to the know, like, and trust factor, because people get a sense for who you are. You're live. There's no hiding behind your computer screen, And so I really believe that live video is going to be huge, and it's totally doable for the majority of business owners if they'll step out from behind their own stuff and realize that they're there to serve a community, and not let that fear factor impede that opportunity. And I also think virtual reality is something we're going to see a lot more of in the future. I don't think that's something that a lot of business owners are going to wrap their heads around initially anyway. But I think it's something to be on the lookout for, because it is definitely, growing by leaps and bounds. And I really think the opportunity is going to be huge.
Yeah, the VR and the augmented reality might take a little bit more to get us there.
Yeah.
But with the live, like, once we get over ourselves, what should we be talking about? What should we be producing to make it interesting?
Well, I think that is the interesting part. It can be so many things. I mean, it can be, showcasing the personal side of your life or your business. It can be showcasing value in some way that's, disseminating knowledge. I do that quite a bit, where I just, show up on Facebook Live or Twitter Live, and I've got 5 ways to do X. Interestingly enough, what I've done in the interest of time is really approach my live sessions from a strategy standpoint. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm just going to go live, and again, no plan, which is what I did incidentally when live video first started, is I just was like, oh my goodness, it's a connection point. And then I really had to slow down and say, okay, what am I getting out of this? What's the business goal behind this? So now what I've done is I plan out my talking points and I will go live and I will talk my content. I have that content transcribed and I turn that content into a blog post. I literally take that same piece of content, I divvy it up, and I make video snippets. I make visual tiles for my social platforms. Some cases we create anywhere from 60 to 100 pieces of content from a block of time that I spent on Facebook Live that was about 20 or 30 minutes. So I have really tried to teach entrepreneurs and business owners that this is an opportunity to save time and to create content for all of your social platforms.
And to amplify that content as well.
Absolutely. And to create it in a way that's consumable. Lots of times people might not, go to your blog, for example, and spend, 10, 15 minutes reading a blog post, but they might get a nugget. Maybe you've got a tweetable moment that's what I call them, kind of like a quote that you pull out of that content and you make it a visual tile. That is something they see on Facebook and they're like, oh, yeah, wow, that's a great tip. I'm going to go implement that. So it's again meeting people where they are and providing value and having a consistent message. That's also another struggle for a lot of entrepreneurs is what do I share where? And, how do I create up this content? I can't be all these places at all times. So, leveraging one block of time and then, splitting that one piece of content into multiple snippets for all of your social platforms has been invaluable to me. And I think for any entrepreneur who will embrace the concept.
Yeah, no, for sure. You really go out and you produce a lot, and you magnify it and multiply it, and it's a wonderful model. Just in closing, wrapping things up, I really appreciate your time and joining me, Kim. But what would sort of be the number one piece of advice or tip to say, hey, here's how you can really sort of master this part of the game of business?
Well, the one thing I would say is focus. I have been all over the place, through my journey in the social space, and because I am in the social space and I try to be, in multiple places. The fragmentation that happens when you're trying to be in all places is that you ultimately do nothing well. So I guess my biggest piece of advice to anyone who's listening is stop worrying about what everybody says and that you have to be everywhere. You don't have to be everywhere. You have to be one place, or maybe two, or maybe three if you got the resources to do it. But focus in on one social platform until you start seeing measurable results there. And then you can, add on, do more, whatever. But I think a lot of people are so spread out and so thin with their resources that they're seeing no real measurable business result from their social activity. And that just breaks my heart because there is so much opportunity out there for any size business owner to connect, build community, and monetize that community. And so I just would say focus. Figure out where your ideal client is, your ideal customer, and focus on one place.
Yeah, and focus on that ideal customer as well, and then focus on how you want to deliver and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about strategy and a lot of flying by the seat of our pants, and I think a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs want to fly by the seat of their pants, which is fine to get started. But after a while, you realize that, you need to focus and get down to business. So it's been a fantastic discussion, Kim. Would really love to, continue this at some point down the future. We can talk more about social selling and that sort of thing. But no, I really appreciate your time.
Definitely. I appreciate you having me. And as always, love sharing what I know. anytime I can do that, that makes my day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and thank you for that offer. I know, like from when we met and what I've seen and everything, it's like, yeah, you're very giving and getting your stuff out there and getting your ideas and that is just it's just fascinating to watch. So, what's the best way for people to find you?
Well, my website is kimgarst.com. It's /blog if you're looking for great content that focuses in on the digital and social strategy piece. You can find me on all social platforms under my name, Kim Garst.
Fantastic. So that should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Just Google.
Yeah.
All right. No, cool. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate it. And for all the listeners, we'll have the show notes and that sort of thing on breaking.digital. And looking forward to talking more at some point. So for all the audience, we'll see you online. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to Breaking Digital, the podcast for smart entrepreneurs wanting to become true digital leaders in their industry and to own online. If you have any comments on the program, please feel free to connect on Twitter @DoyleBuehler with the hashtag #OwnOnline. I would really appreciate it if you could share this podcast with your network, as I'm sure they will get some value from it for building their successful business online as well. You can find the resources that we talked about, as well as the transcript and full podcast for download on thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast or on iTunes or on SoundCloud. I'm Doyle Buehler, and I will see you online.
Thank you for listening to Breaking Digital with Doyle Buehler. While he goes and makes a sandwich, you can find all of the notes, links, and details on this podcast by visiting thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. Go on and click that now. www.thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. I'll definitely click that. If you'd like a free copy of the book, The Digital Delusion, How to Overcome the Misguidance and Misinformation Online, just send an email to doyle@thedigitaldelusion.com. See you online.